Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Thank you. I'll be here all week. JxmyHighroller said, remaking my NBA GOAT pyramid, basketball pyramid. I see Michael Jordan at the top. I'm assuming he made this some time ago. I can't remember, but screw it. We're gonna watch the video.
About 3 years ago, I released my GOAT pyramid, featuring 30 of what I believe to be the greatest NBA players of all time. And it's okay, but it could use some work. So today, we're going to be updating the NBA GOAT pyramid. Today's video is brought to you by SeatGeek. A new NBA season is upon us.
You're not new here.
GOAT pyramid on Instagram. And I only...
Dang, Shaq posted it?
A few weeks ago, Shaq shared this basketball GOAT pyramid on Instagram. And I only know this because people were tagging me in the comments thinking it was mine. But it's not. The dead giveaway was LeBron being on tier 3.
Oh, wow.
Also, current day Steph on tier 4 was a massive red flag. And a pretty solid player by the name of...
This is from, dang, LeBron in the Lakers jersey, though. Wow, you lack brain cells, whoever made this one.
Hakeem Olajuwon was nowhere to be found on this pyramid at all.
On the whole thing, not even with Steve Nash.
So, as cool as it would be to have Shaq share some content from the channel, this NBA GOAT pyramid is from someone else. But it did get me thinking.
I can't stand you idiots. How are you dummies tagging JxmyHighroller in this with LeBron James on the 3rd tier? He ain't that stupid. Don't do that. You're not even stupid. I like
With
Jimmy.
all of the events that have taken place over the last 4
You're
NBA
stupid.
seasons,
He almost put KD
I think
at like
it's time
7
we
once.
update our GOAT pyramid. So here's the pyramid I made 3 years ago, May 23rd, 2019 to be exact.
All right, what would I change about this? Never react to this video. I don't even know if I saw this video back in the day. And he had KD May 3rd, 2019. Did he just he must have remade the images because that man KD was not on the Nets in May 3rd, 2019. I would have May 3rd, 2019. All right, I don't know about predictions. You know what? I'm putting LeBron on tier 1 with Jordan. I think enough people interchange them that I'll put LeBron on tier 1. Tier 3, I want Shaq and I want so LeBron going up tier 1. We're gonna only have 3 people on tier 2. So my bad. I think I'm reading the one underneath it and saying tier 1, tier 2, whatever the hell. I want Hakeem, Shaq, and I want Timmy up to the next. Dang. Really, I'm just thinking about the top 10. Oh man, this is tough. I want those 3 up. I want those 3 up 1. And then I want this tier to be the only Bill Russell, Larry Bird, and maybe bring up Oscar Robertson. But that's tough though. It's not a bad pyramid, especially in the format of a pyramid. It looks pretty neat. So,
which means since this video was released, 4 new teams have been crowned champions, 4 MVPs have been awarded, and there has been 3.5 seasons.
Oh yeah, is Giannis even on there? No, he's not even on here.
To be exact. Which means since this video was released, 4 new teams have been crowned champions, 4 MVPs have been awarded, and there has been 3.5 seasons worth of NBA context
Jokic on there either? I don't think so.
For our new pyramid. Now I want to keep this new pyramid at 30 players like our original one. So if I add any players, I unfortunately have to take players off as well. And just like with my original GOAT pyramid, there are a few factors I'm going to be considering throughout this process. A player's peak, which I value more than longevity, their accomplishments and hardware, their skill and ability, and even the era that they played in. And of course, just like with my original GOAT pyramid, these selections are all based on my personal opinion. So with that out of the way, let's make some changes to this pyramid. So first things first, I have to make one massive adjustment to the top of this pyramid. Some may agree with it, some may not. But after winning his 4th championship and 4th finals MVP while climbing every all-time leaderboard over the last 4 seasons, LeBron James has earned a spot in tier 1. Because at
Mike
this
breaking
point,
out the
the
pyramid though,
all-time
it looks kind of
discussion has
nasty.
virtually become
Like,
Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and then everyone else. I still have MJ as the GOAT, but the gap between MJ and LeBron feels smaller than the gap between LeBron and whoever comes next. So I feel this change was necessary and well earned. But that leaves us with 3 players on tier 2,
presented by
and that just
JxmyHighroller
looks
Nation.
weird. So when considering peaks and accolades and impact on the game and every other factor I can conjure up, I've decided to move Bill Russell and Larry Bird up to tier 2. In our original pyramid, I had Magic on tier.
He took 2 of the players that I was planning on leaving down in tier 3.
tier
All
2
right.
and Bird on tier 3. But with LeBron moving up, this gives room for Bird and Magic to be on the same tier, as they should be. And Bill Russell, 11 rings, greatest defensive player of all time, there's not much to be said here. Now there's two players in particular who have solidified their legacies over the last 4 seasons and have earned spots on tier 3 with Shaq.
Did you say 2 players? Would he say KD and I mean, I don't know. Is he going to say Jokic and Giannis this early?
Duncan and Wilt.
Oh no! Curry. Curry's going up, and Giannis is going up. And I feel like KD should probably be on. I feel like he would put KD on this tier, right?
Of course, Steph Curry and
okay.
Kevin Durant. Since 2019, Steph has proven without a shadow of a doubt that he's the greatest shooter of all time. And after winning his 4th championship and first Finals MVP last season, he's made the jump into tier 3. Steph's brilliance and consistency season after season has extended his prime past where I think most fans would have ever considered. Now in his 13th season, at 34 years old, he's not only one of the best players in the league, he's putting together arguably the best season of his historic career. And the same could be said for Kevin Durant. He's got all the hardware, a league MVP, 2 championships, and 2 finals MVPs. But what has bumped Durant from tier 4 into tier 3 is his relentless consistency as a generational talent. Since 2019, he's made 2 more All-NBA teams while averaging 29, 7, and 6. And this has earned him the jump from tier 4 to tier 3.
438, right? 430 in the video. Wasn't he kind of just, I guess this is still part of his peak though. I'm pretty sure he literally said that longevity didn't matter that much. So I was just making sure he was staying. Yeah, this is still his peak though. So I guess technically whatever. His peak is longevity.
To tier 4, which has some pretty major changes to it. And our first change comes with John Stockton, who gets demoted into tier 5, which puts him at about the 5th or 6th greatest point guard of all time, behind Magic, Steph, Oscar, and Isaiah. Scottie Pippen also got demoted to tier 5. I made this decision because despite Scottie's critical role throughout the Bulls dynasty, his talents as an individual player just don't warrant him a spot amongst players like Oscar Robertson, Karl Malone, and Julius Erving. And unfortunately, Dwayne Wade and Isaiah Thomas get demoted into tier 5 as well.
Got rid of a whole tier.
But being in tier 4 means a player is...
Okay, well, I would say James Harden's going to be here. If I had to guess, James Harden's going to be here. Because he's got to be adding some people. Jokic, Giannis, Harden, KG, and Dirk go up.
Is at worst a top 21 player of all time, and I just don't consider Wade or Isaiah to be of that caliber. But I would consider them both to be top 30 players of all time, with similar relatively short but brilliant peaks and playoff heroics throughout their careers. And with these changes, tier 4 becomes a barren wasteland with only 3 players. So we've got some promoting to do, starting with Jerry West. 12 All-NBA teams, Finals MVP, and 5 All-Defensive Team selections with career averages of 27, 6, and 5 a game. The only other players in NBA history to achieve these career averages are LeBron James and Kevin Durant. So the logo gets the bump into tier 4. My next promotion goes to Moses Malone. 3-time league MVP, a finals MVP, and one of the greatest rebounders the game has ever seen. Honestly, he should have never been in tier 5 to begin with. So let's put him where he truly belongs. And my last pair of promotions goes to Dirk Nowitzki and Kevin Garnett. The individual dominance of both KG and Dirk that spanned over 2 decades is matched by only a handful of all-time greats. But if not their sustained excellence over the course of 21 seasons, it was their massive peaks that earned them a spot in tier 4. 2 of the most skilled, versatile, and imposing big men the game has ever seen. Which leaves us with tier 5 and some tough decisions to make. There are only 2 players that made my original GOAT pyramid that did not make the cut in my new pyramid. And those players are Bob Pettit and Allen Iverson.
I was about to say.
All these adjustments, there are now 2 spots.
Wow, wait. So is this the top 50? Wait.
Players are Bob. Original GOAT pyramid that did not make decisions to make. There are only 2 players that made my original GOAT pyramid that did not make the cut in my new pyramid. And those players are Bob Pettit and Allen Iverson.
Wait, count with me real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Somewhere around that. I don't know. I kind of rushed that. It's like around 30. Okay, so he's saying AI.
With all these adjustments, there are now 2 spots open for 2 new players.
Is this Elgin right here wearing a thing that says Seattle? Why was he wearing a Seattle jersey?
Of all the players who missed the cut the first time around, the players who I considered for my new pyramid were Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, James Harden, Chris Paul, and Kawhi Leonard. Of all the active players in the NBA,
I forgot
aside
about
from
Kawhi.
LeBron, Steph, and Durant,
Kawhi.
these are the only players who even have a shot at making the pyramid.
Okay, this is where I'm putting him, right? I am putting... Look, I feel like almost everyone unanimously... Now, I know he kind of already hinted, though, that he doesn't care that much about longevity yet. It seems like he's valuing longevity so far. I mean, I don't know. It depends on where he puts these guys now. But me personally, I'm putting Giannis tier 2 or tier 3 already. I'm putting Giannis tier 3. Same tier as I do think... Oh, man, that is tough, though. Honestly, no, I wouldn't have him tier 3. What I would have personally done, I'm just being honest, is I would have KD down a tier and then put Giannis in the tier next to him, because I think that they're obviously, I know KD has way more years on him, but like years of peak prime prominence, whatever the hell. KD's got about like almost 10 years on him, like, because KD was a dog from out the gate, made the finals in like his 4th year. It took Giannis about 8 years to make the finals, and really come into his own about 4 or 5 years. So I do think KD's got that on him. I don't undervalue KD's elite ability just naturally, but I think that Giannis has worked hard enough to be on the same level of a guy like Kevin Durant thus far. Not saying talent wise, whatever, just impact. And so I think KD should be down here on tier 4. I do think that Curry, the reason why I couldn't say it is because I don't think Giannis is on the level of Duncan, Wilt, Curry, Hakeem, or Shaq yet. So I would move KD down one. And I do love KD though. And I think skill wise, it's just, I don't know. It's just, man, you know. And then me personally, I would also have, which I think with how he's valuing things here, I think that Kawhi would be a tier 5 player. I think talent-wise, Kawhi is almost a tier 3 player. And I'm not like, I'm saying he'd be upper echelon of this tier, talent-wise. But I think he'll be a tier 5 on here for him. Chris Paul, honestly, probably a tier 4 player. I think he's better than... He has a more storied legacy than every other player in this tier 5 tier. Obviously, also too, I know my camera is covering just Dwayne Wade down here. So in case you forgot that by now. Harden's probably gonna end up tier 5. And even though he's a maybe even a high tier 4 talent, he's for sure a high tier 4 talent. And Jokic might have to be tier 4 just off of those 2 MVPs.
And since my original pyramid 3.5 years ago, Nikola Jokic has made 4 All-NBA teams, 3 of them being first-team selections. He's won back-to-back MVPs, he's led the Nuggets to the conference finals, and he's put up 2 of the most historically efficient and productive seasons in league history. It's only a matter of time before Jokic joins the GOAT pyramid. But at the moment, it's just a bit too soon. Now for the case of James Harden, I had to sit and really think about his potential.
There's no world where I don't put Jokic over John Stockton right now. I'm sorry. I don't care. What is he, 27, 28 years old? No, there's no world. I'm sorry. I don't care about rationality. Screw you.
Potential addition to the pyramid. Harden had one of the highest offensive peaks in league
Now he's
history,
in there. He's got to be in there. He's older. If you're saying Jokic is too young, too early. Over the course of 6 seasons, he's won an MVP. He's made 7 All-NBA teams, and he's just one of 7 players in NBA history to win a scoring title and an assist title. But where James Harden falls short compared to other players on the pyramid is his performance in the playoffs. He just hasn't broke through on the biggest stage, and the heliocentric offense that allowed him to put up such unbelievable stat lines became a weak point to his teams in the postseason. So for now, James Harden does not crack the GOAT. Bro, no, you're being too critical of the modern era guys at this point, because I mean, I would assume you've done your extensive research, but there's just, oh man, no, I mean, it's honestly, man. No, I can't do it. I can't agree. I cannot agree.
Pyramid. The next player I consider,
and I'm not going to say I'm going to like go through like a deductive argument of like legacies and all that stuff, but just seeing Harden and Jokic talent wise compared to these guys, yeah, I value talent enough to put them this high up on this list.
was Chris Paul, one of the most complete point guards in recent years. And despite his lack of playoff
Now I'm not gonna be
success,
surprised if he don't make it.
Completely transform
And he probably is.
every team he's been a part of. CP3 is a tricky one because, as I touched on before, if you compare Chris Paul to John Stockton, who is in tier 5 on my pyramid, their careers are almost identical. And after CP3's first trip to the finals last season, their overall numbers and accomplishments only become more and more similar with time. Chris Paul had a higher peak, but Stockton's record-breaking ability to generate offense for nearly 2 decades, while being a lockdown perimeter defender, gives him a razor-thin edge over CP3, in my opinion. So for now, Chris Paul doesn't quite...
Yo, Jimmy. Yo, Jimbo, you really testing me here, boy. Oh my God. What? There's no world.
5, which leaves us with the 2 new additions to my GOAT pyramid, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Kawhi Leonard. Now, since my original pyramid, which was released just before the end of the 2019 season, Giannis has went from a great, young, ascending player to
I gotta look at what he valued again. Hold on. 913, go back. Skill set, era, accomplishments. So really just screw era for a second. Skill set, accomplishments, peak. Okay, all of them had great peaks. All of them great. I know obviously all of these guys had great peaks, accomplishment, but I'm trying to think in what way could you possibly say that Chris Paul, James Harden, and Jokic all didn't make this? Still skill set, they're more skilled than most a good portion of the guys on those bottom tiers. Accomplishments, Chris Paul specifically, you can't. I know he hasn't won the championship. He finally had a finals appearance, but he's had near MVP seasons. I personally, which sometimes I feel bad because I don't know the extensive storied history of vote getters from like the 60s and 70s, because me personally living in this era, I know that Chris Paul finished top 3 in MVP, I believe, on multiple occasions, at the very least that one year in like 08, and then continued to produce at a very similar level. If anything, he probably could have produced higher if he didn't go to a better team, which then in turn tried to win more by, you know, sacrificing more of his teammates, which was natural because he's a point guard, the point god. But and then you obviously know the factors in between. Like we watched, I don't know if I uploaded this one, but we watched a Chris Paul video from, I believe, Low, and it was talking about if Chris Paul's actually a sellout or not, and he's not as much of a sellout as people really paint him to be. So I personally like don't even harp on that as much for him. So I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? So and then you got John Stockton, didn't win no rings either. So I don't really, and then Chris Paul is just better at every single thing you just named for John Stockton. I don't think anybody's arguing with that really for the most part. I think he'll be in the very vast minority or small minority of people to agree with that himself. And then James Harden, easily clear accomplishments, MVPs, got very deep in the playoffs, even if he did fail multiple times. He got very, very deep in the playoffs. Skill set, more skilled than most guys. Peak, incredibly greater peak than even Chris Paul, greater peak than maybe even Jokic, like the Harden 37 points per game type of guy. I don't care what the hell you say about John Havlicek and playing off the bench for Celtics teams. And by the way, I've been a guy who's noticed how good John Havlicek was and been put on to how nice he was back in the day. So that's why you don't hear me yelling and going crazy because he's in the plumber era or something. No, I seen his stats. There's a reason why he had the most missed shots ever before Kobe came around and took it from him, because, you know, he was that good and was taking enough shots to do so. But I can't think Harden wouldn't do the exact same thing in that era, you know, once again. But all right.
Now, since my original pyramid, which was released just before the end of the 2019
and then Jokic
season,
it's a given. I will say Jokic isn't guaranteed to be over. I don't with David Robinson being the last center on here, right? I will say he's not guaranteed to be over any of these centers, but I do think he's good enough to be on here. Period. At the end of the day, I think he's for sure great enough to be on here. If anything, I would have just extended the. If anything, yeah, I'm asking like, so is it just the top once again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 20. Okay, so it's just the top 30. It's just the top 30. So that's what he was trying to do. I still disagree with yeah, I still can't. I mean, if it was players I had to remove for them, I'd be removing John Stockton, and I'd be removing. At the very least, yeah. I'm removing John Stockton for one of those three. Just to play it safe, even because it's tough. Wait, so who do you? It was Harden, Chris Paul. Yeah, I'm removing John Stockton for Chris Paul. I'm taking Jokic over. I'm sorry, but Barkley or Havlicek or Baylor or just the whole tier. Pippen,
just before the end of the 2019 season. Giannis has went from a great, young, ascending player to a certified all-time great. In just 3.5 years, Giannis won a championship, 2 MVPs, a Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, 4 All-NBA First Teams, 4 All-Defensive First Teams, and an All-Star Game MVP, while averaging 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. That's a pretty solid 3.5-year stretch for the big man. So I had to add Giannis to the pyramid, and I'm going to put him comfortably in tier 4. And with our second and final addition, Kawhi Leonard is added to tier 5. My original pyramid was created 3 weeks before Kawhi won his second championship and second Finals MVP, which led to his greatness stock skyrocketing. Now, Kawhi is a tough player to rank among any all-time scenario because when he's playing, he's one of the greatest players to ever lace up. But over the last few seasons, he just hasn't laced up a whole lot. But it's impossible to look past his 2 Finals MVPs and his run as the best two-way player in the NBA. So Kawhi gets added to the pyramid, but just barely, sneaking into tier 5. And there it is, my updated NBA GOAT pyramid. And I want to point out a few interesting things that I noticed throughout the process of making this. If we break down the pyramid by position, there are 6 point guards, 3 shooting guards, 8
should be 4. And should be 1 more of these. And it just should be Chris Paul over Stockton.
Forwards, 6 power forwards, and 7 centers featured on the pyramid. I initially thought centers would have the largest presence here, with big men running the league for nearly 6 decades, but turns out a well-rounded, versatile wing has been the ideal archetype for a potential NBA great. If we break the GOAT pyramid down by the decade that each player was drafted in, then we'll find that among all players who made it onto the pyramid, 4 of them were drafted in the 50s, 3 were drafted in the 60s, 2 were drafted in the 70s, a whopping 10 players were drafted in the 80s, 5 in the 90s, 4 in the 2000s,
There's 3 of these guys shouldn't be on here.
2010s. And since most players peak in the decade after they were drafted, it could be said that the 90s were the best era for NBA basketball, or at least the era that featured the most all-time great talent. Giannis is the youngest player featured on this pyramid at just 28 years old, completely bypassing tier 5 altogether and landing on tier 4 after just 9 seasons in the NBA. This puts Giannis somewhere between the 15th and 20th best player all time. Giannis's ascent amongst the greatest players of all time was pretty quick, but we've seen a rapid climb to basketball royalty like this before. Back in 1996, the NBA announced the 50 greatest NBA players to commemorate the league's 50th anniversary. And despite some backlash on the selection, a 24-year-old Shaquille O'Neal was selected as a top 50 player all time after just 4 seasons in the NBA. The second youngest player that was selected for that exclusive Greatest 50 club was Scottie Pippen, who was 31. Back in 2009, sports writer and analyst Bill Simmons released his original basketball pyramid that featured 96 players. At the time, LeBron James was just 24 years old in his 6th NBA season. He hadn't won a league MVP yet, he had only made 1 trip to the finals at that point, and he just hit his peak.
He was cooking.
Young LeBron not only made Bill's GOAT basketball pyramid, he was already so transcendently good that Simmons selected him as the 20th greatest player in NBA history.
He was cooking.
After the last half,
man, wait, hold on.
Him as the 20th.
Dwayne Wade is right there. He had Dwayne Wade on there too. So we're not going to act like that's the same exact draft class.
Greatest player in NBA history. And after the last half decade Giannis has put together, he has slingshot.
That's what I'm saying. I think more young players should have been on your GOAT pyramid. Get all these get inferior Scottie Pippen, second option Scottie out of here for James Harden, who led his team for 10 seasons. So maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me valuing, you know what I'm saying, the leader of a basketball team over a second, third. He's obviously not a third option, but I don't.
Trajectory. Now I have to mention the handful of players that just narrowly missed the cut. Those players were Steve Nash, Patrick Ewing, Allen Iverson, Jason Kidd, Bob Pettit, Bob Cousy.
Aside from these 3 right here, get them all the hell out of here. I will say Iverson is a tough one too. Nash is a tough one too. But as long as Kid is out there, Nash is out as well. Yeah, but it's also the fact that he made it like so, which I get it, that's your thing, but it's the fact that he made it, you know, a concrete 30, and I feel like there's more people that should be on the GOAT pyramid list than 30. I guess that's really the best way to put it, honestly, more than anything. I don't want to remove Scottie Pippen. I don't want to remove John Havlicek. If I had to add to the GOAT basketball pyramid, I'm adding those three that he removed from the modern era, and it'd be tough to choose out of the point guards. I'm for sure adding those three. I think Chris Paul would be the next best point guard over Nash and Kidd. Iverson's a tough one because of his, you know, inconsistencies actually shooting the basketball. I'm really proud of him for doing what he did at his height and everything, but you know, and then Jokic is firmly more talented. Kawhi is more talented than, and I mean, if we're being honest, Dwayne Wade is more talented than a lot of these guys as well. But it's a lot of talent. It's a lot of talent. Dwayne Wade just had a shortened. He said it when he put him lower. Dwayne Wade was shortened in his what's it called? His peak. And then I even personally have pointed out before that, you know, people overrate kind of the rings that he got just a little bit, just a tad with Bron, because he was, you know, it wasn't like he was putting up the 09, 08 MVP-esque numbers that he was. But he was a factor in the playoffs.
James Harden,
big
Chris
time.
Paul, Nikola Jokic, and JxmyHighroller. All great players, but when the spots are limited to just 30, the criteria to make the GOAT pyramid is a hefty one. I imagine if we redo this pyramid again in 5 years, we'll see Jokic
I can't think if there's anybody else.
Luka Doncic on here, or possibly James Harden and Chris Paul. But for now, this is my new, and I think improved, NBA GOAT pyramid. Let me know what you think. Which players are too low? Which players are too high? Who was left out that you think should have made the cut? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, until next time.
I have my values that I value differently than him, and that's what leads me to different conclusions. But I disagree with almost every single tier except for the first one. But I still, you know, it was a great video. Shout out to JxmyHighroller. And it's been real. It's been fun. But it ain't been real fun.